So obviously you kind of walked us through your past, you know, so kind of tell me like how Greensy started, you know, obviously like what made you decide, okay, I see a potential or whatever it was. And then, yeah, I guess just start me from there. So take me from the beginning to where you are present day.
Well, so, when I go to meet people in cocktail parties, which, I used to when that was the thing of the past, COVID times, but when I would meet people, I used to always ask, what are you passionate about? I never really asked, like, what do you do? Because, like, that's a silly question. Like, what do you do for work? I think it's a boring question. It's like, what are you passionate about? And people would say things like, oh, kite surfing, or really into my kids right now. They're awesome. And I'm like, oh, I love it. And when people ask me, they, hit it back to me, which I love. I would say, you know what? I love coding. Like, I love writing software. I love solving problems. And one of my favorite projects, at the time, and still is to this day, is in my house, there were all these shades, like roller shades, that roll up things, and they were from different vendors. I wanted to automate them. Like, I just basically wanted them to go up and down automatically based on sunrise, sunset. And there was nothing out there. So I built it, and I coded it up, and I, spent weekends on it and had fun, and, little microcontroller and, software, and it just works. Like, it just works. So, like, even today, like, my wife's like, yeah, that's like the one thing you built that just works. She's kidding. But, there's plenty of stuff I built that still works, but it just does. And we automated it. And so I used to talk about that. And my co-founder, David, is a good friend of mine, and he would always hear me say that. Like, we were in the same forum together, which is like a sort of mastermind group. And I came to him one day and I said, he's actually known in Atlanta for starting companies. He's going to come out as having the Midas touch. He basically starts companies that are successful. It's crazy. If you look him up, David Cummings. And don't want to toot his horn. I can toot his horn enough. Can't do it enough because he's just so modest about it. But I came to him and said, hey, David, I want to start something new. It's like, you know me. And he goes, all right, I got the perfect idea for you. And I said, what is it? And he said, outdoor robotics, those robo-mowers. And I remember laughing. I'd be like, what are you talking about, man? Like, I was like, and I remember we might've been at his lake house watching one go around or whatever. And he's like, why is there no like Tesla of that? And I go, yeah, you're right. I've had one too. Like mine, I was like, you're right. You have to put in the boundary, like the boundary wire. I guess I assume that like, these are built by hardware companies who only know hardware. Like, I guess it just assumes. And I thought about it and I said, okay, that's interesting. And I went home and started researching. And then the next day I started researching more and then kept researching. And then I came back to him and I remember like, I was like, David, I'm obsessed with this idea now. And I forget how long ago that was, but I'm still obsessed with it right now. Yeah. But it is doable. It is now, the time is now. And we have been able to do it. So that has really been it. The other sides of that I'm not telling you are that I did invest in a lawn company called lawn.com, and we had labor challenges. And so I knew a bit about the green industry. I sometimes play that I don't. I've mowed my fair share of lawns. And while I did not start off as a landscaper and I don't have that, cutting my teeth on that, I know some of these challenges. And so like knowing that, this is a big problem, the labor challenge and that robotics and software-based robotics, which is our difference and key differentiator between a lot of and again, to put fun at the dumb robo-mowers, I do love them and our software is dumb too in its own way, but that's the sort of key difference. So that's the origin story. There's an even longer one if you're interested in reading it on the Atlanta Ventures story, which is a blog, which is a fun one. I'm lucky to be a part of their studio, which helps entrepreneurs like me start with very unfair advantages, which I'm a huge fan of. I think everyone should seek unfair advantages. And, I know that not everybody comes from the time when they can do it. And I'm very cognizant of, especially in this past year, all the things that I've been given and I'm grateful for and have gratitude for, but I still think everybody should seek unfair advantages no matter where you come from or what color your skin is or whatever your biases and disabilities and abilities are. You should seek unfair advantages to basically put yourself and others ahead to create more value for everybody. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm currently trying to seek that unfair advantage right now.
Everybody is.
Everything I'm doing is self-funded, but you get to a point where when you have natural aspirations, yeah, you're looking for those advantages. But that's just
I tell you, it's a good time to be in venture back. Like not to, hopefully your audience is maybe thinking about raising money or doing any of that. Man, money is it's kind of sloshing around. Not to be crude about it, but if you have a very good product, authentic demand, a team that can execute. Basically, I don't think venture capitalists want you to know this, but investors, they are seeking people who want to build things. There's a lot of venture capital out there. So I'm not saying venture capital is for everybody. I don't think some people should do it. I think some ideas are not catered to it. Like if they don't have venture scale, there's no reason to raise money. But if you're, and that's been a big shift for me. I've always bootstrapped. My previous companies were all sort of bootstrapped, like, you buy it, sell it, buy it, sell it, buy it, sell it, like don't go unprofitable. Right now, Greensy is pretty fun because we are very unprofitable. And I'm proud of that because the market and our demand is so big that I'm using my investors' money to give it away and to really learn from our customers and like seek that unfair advantage to build the best product for them so that when we are at that scale, the profits will come. So it's a different mindset for me. And it's very challenging when I see our burn and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay, bring on another developer. Yeah. Hire another. Yeah. Let's go. Order 3.
So it's so funny you bring up burn because when it's your own money, I just had a conversation with my team about this. And I told them, I'm like, hey, we're burning a lot of money right now. We gotta start.
Oh yeah.
Deals.
Oh yeah.
It is that's the challenge.
Well,
some business.
And I think the best way to do it is to do both. I've been lucky and had a small exit that I could do this, but I think that's what has attracted a lot of the good investors is they look at the cap table, which is our capitalization, and they go, whoa, CBQ is like putting his own money where his mouth is, like. Yeah. All right, let's go. Like, let's go. So, and we've got a lot of green industry people, which I'm super excited about, who understand and know what we're going after. I don't have to explain to them any of this. Like I've pitched these Silicon Valley VCs and they're like, how many yards are in America? And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, it's the largest crop in the United States by 3 times corn. Like, never mind. This meeting's over. Like you're done.
So first of all, we could have a whole nother episode just talking about that, I think, and maybe we might have to set that up. But I agree that it's people don't have any idea how much turf gets mowed in this country. I mean, it is crazy. And even like with my relationship with with Husqvarna and Ambrosio, it's like, all these other, robot manufacturers came from places where they don't really have a lot of turf. I mean, they have 5,000 square foot yards. So it actually kind of explains why there is not software based, because like I said earlier, they didn't need the yards to be striped. There are gardens out there.
And to their credit, I mean, if I was a hardware manufacturer now and I thought about hardware and knew how to do hardware, I would do what they did and I would sell that thing for $2,000. But, I think the time is coming now. The time is now for software. It's eating the world. And I don't think it was possible. I've actually studied this and there's been a bunch of companies who have tried to do what we do. And for whatever reason, I think I know the reasons. I think sensor costs were too high. The self-driving was, industry was not as far along. The safety sensors, depth sensing cameras, all the software ruggedization and, cloud-based and 4G and all that stuff, it's all had to come together. And again, I think now is the time. So I don't. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I want to.
I want to say it before I forget, because it's been on the tip of my tongue a few times. So
sure.
So there's 2 questions that I have. The one thing I'll say about the small little mowers, and honestly, I mean, my audience should know. I mean, it's Husqvarna for me and Ambrosio. So, totally. The thing is, it's an 8.5-inch blade, very small, So my original selling point was, I mean, the thing bounces off you, you pick it up, it's 30 pounds. It's not going to do any damage. So how do you guys deal with insurance? Because I know my audience, if they'll email me after this and say,
oh yeah,
what am I going to tell my insurance company about this unmanned thing moving around? So I want you to expand on that in a second for me. And secondly, with all of those other smaller robots, everything's trying to go line of sight. The whole way they're going to get rid of wires is line of sight. And I know personally, there's all sorts of line of sight issues. So how do you overcome those line of sight issues with yours, or do you not use satellite? Is it different? So if you could expand on that, because I think it's important for people to understand how that happens, because otherwise they're going to sit on the bench and wait. So.
All right. Well, I love it because you asked a legal and a technical question. And so I would love to just answer the technical, but I'm going to go after the legal. So there are no laws. There's no regulation for what we're doing because it is so new. So we are seeking to go above and beyond of all the regulations we're finding that make sense. So the biggest one that my team follows, and we all know, is there's an 802 standard. I'm not going to quote it on here. It's on our website. If you go to the safety page, but there's automated industrial robots have a bunch of safety standards that goes from everything from e-stop, which has to be at the hardware level. Like there's no like sort of, okay, then we'll read it and then do this and whatever. Like, nope. There's a ton of other standards with remote sort of operation, how it starts, the systems, all that stuff, how do you, FCC licensing, all that stuff. So know that we are going through it and trying to go above and beyond, but know that there is not, like, for instance, you can't call up your broker and be like, hey, I want to add 3 workers and 2 robotic workers. Not yet. We will get there and we will help them one day figure out that cost, and it's going to be less because robots don't show up drunk and they aren't tired. They see the same thing at 7 a.m. as they do at 7 p.m. And in fact, they can see in the dark. So I think they'll be better on the bottom line. But for as of right now, I can tell you how our big customers are doing it. And that is they are weighing the downsides of like, I literally do not have enough people. So yes, I will take on the burden of responsibility. Mowing is a dangerous activity. I can't change that. It is, there's risk involved. And so all of our customers know that. You guys know that. There's safety. We don't operate when kids are around. None of this stuff is I shouldn't have to say it, but I do. So there's a lot of rules and regulations around that. I think we will look back and wonder why we put humans on these dangerous machines, that roll over, fling grass, cuts, like people drown. I mean, 3 people drowned. One of my big customers, like, because they were on the mower near one of those like embankments with the water.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, it's like giving me goosebumps because I'm like, we got to stop that. Like we have to move faster because I do not want like, we can replace a robot and a machine. We can't replace a human.
Well, and you can set a mowing speed. Well, something I always talk about is, if that right stander mows best at 8 miles an hour, but it can move 12 miles an hour, the operator runs at 12 miles an hour.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
time. You know what I'm saying?
But our robot goes nice and clean.
Yes, 8 miles an hour. That's what you get.
So that was the legal question. I punted on the insurance, and let me be clear with you guys. There's not anything right now, and we're working on it. I would love to. I don't want to be curt or anything about that. That's a valid question. Safety, insurance. I'd love to talk more about that because I think it's a hard question. We should attack it head on.